Hi, my name is Giovanni Fuentes. I am a orchestra director. I teach classical music, and I'm hanging out with Classroom Concerts at the Teachers Lounge.
All right, Gio. So, man, thank you for sitting down with me. We really wanted to do this to just give a different perspective on, our show is about giving a different perspective on hip hop with the live band and live music and everything. But we want to give a different perspective on music. And so we wanted to talk to, of course, music teachers in the world. So not just people who are out here making music for a living, but people who teach music and kind of pass it on to the next generation.
Right.
Because without teachers of music, then everybody's just pressing buttons on
Right.
on a beat machine. Like, yeah, I make music. Mm-hmm. So starting off, what is the importance of actual music to you? I'll say that.
So music for me, I always tell my students that, I always ask them first and foremost, you're joining an orchestra class to learn music. What is the point? And the big message I want to get from them is that, like, we're in the entertainment business. We bring joy to others. And so by me getting into this business and sharing that with kids, it's mostly about them being able to share joy and spread joy with others around them. That's why I always teach them, like, funny songs, happy birthday, and then they take it from there. I want them to play it for their families, so their families are like, yeah, oh my gosh, they're so amazing,
And so when did you have this, like, realization, or, like, when did you fall in love with music? Because it sounds like you...
Well, I come from I won't say musical, like, they're not trained, but they're very, like, rhythmic family. They always love dancing, and, like, they play the congas and bongos at home. And my aunt played violin growing up. My uncle played trumpet and guitar growing up. So I was like 7, I think, when I got my first guitar. And then I was about 9 or 10 when I got my first violin. So it started pretty young.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and how many instruments do you play?
Professionally now, about 4. All the string instruments, violin, viola, cello, bass. I'm in the process of learning the harp for my job, which is beautiful. I love playing the harp. And then outside of that, drums, electric bass, electric guitar, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you teach orchestra, correct?
Yes.
But it's a class, but it's classical music as well.
Yes.
Okay. And so what is your favorite style of music?
My favorite style of music, I'd probably say, is rock and roll. I mean, that's just what I grew up, listening and just screaming and just, like, the angry music. But, I've since branched out. A lot of people say, I listen to everything. And I feel like that's false. Like, they're always like, except for this genre, except for that. But I truly do find joy in all genres of music, even, like, country and, stuff that people are kind of like, ugh. I think there's good in everything.
Okay. And so would you say classical music would you say that's the foundation of music for you?
For me personally, no. Classical music came later. It's weird because I actually grew up not enjoying it very much. I always thought it was a little bit boring, and it kind of grew on me as I played it more and more. But it was always popular music for me personally. Classical now is beautiful. I can see the joy. I went to college and I understand. Like, I can see, like, through the codes, and I can see, this is beautiful because of this. So I like it now, but it wasn't always like that. Okay.
And with that you talking about how it basically compares to other music. So with our show, we do a lot of hip hop. And so how would you say, do you see a similarity anywhere between classical music or orchestra and hip hop?
Yes. So for me, in part because I don't know a lot about hip hop. I've never been, one to rap or anything. But for me, what I gather from hip hop is about, first of all, the message. What the poetry, the lyricism, and for me also, like, if it has a great beat, if it has a great track, what's the draw to it? And so that's like very, very like at the surface of hip hop for me. But for classical music, it's also like every single piece has like a political background. Every single piece is like written for someone, or like a lot of 19th and 20th century composers from Russia were writing about the war efforts and like not wanting to be drafted, you know. And a lot of like angry classical music is about, you know, very political things. And I feel like a lot of hip hop is very political as well. So I do see a lot of similarities in that, the message, the lyricism, the point.
And you know, when I think of classical music, I don't think of lyrics. When I think of classical music, I think of instruments, a lot of live instruments, and just I can hear a story being told from the music. But so it is a lot of
So I mean, if you know the background of a piece, you could just listen to it, you know, and like it. But for me, I actually believe that all of the humans started by singing first. That was the first instrument ever created, right? So a lot of what makes classical music beautiful is emulating the human voice. So a lot of like cello and violin solos and stuff, they actually sound the best when they sound like a person singing.
I really feel like that about the saxophone. If I hear someone playing a saxophone, it's usually they're playing the lyrics. If they're playing a popular song, it's kind of like the notes of the lyrics that they're
Exactly. Yeah, I talk a lot about orchestra because that's my job, right? But I mean, I appreciate woodwinds and brass as well. I have a friend that he loves playing the marimba. You know, just it's crazy. But you can get beautiful lyrical music from any instrument.
That's deep, because one thing about hip hop is that I think the voice is an instrument a lot of times, and not just the sound of the voice, but the flow. It's like the way things are, the way they approach a beat or something. And do you see that in other music as well, or do you think hip hop has the most unique way of presenting the lyrics?
Yeah, I think it is slightly different, or very different for hip hop. For me, it's very like you get the information more accessible because it's about the poetry of it. You know, other songs, I won't even lie, like a lot of like rock and roll, like the lyrics come last for me. But for hip hop, it's always like this. Okay, what are they talking about? Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that. You know.
Hip hop and rock and roll, do they relate a lot to you? Because I'm asking because personally, I think they have a lot in common, because they're both kind of political based to me. I think when I think rock and roll, I think of screaming their point to you. Not I mean, not just the screaming of it, but they're really trying to get that point across to you. And hip hop, it's more of it's a different approach to it, but it's also that same in your face type of music for me. What do you think about rock and roll and hip hop?
Yeah, I think they're very related. I was while I was hearing the question too, like if you were to lay out the form that they're written in, like verse to chorus, they're pretty much all written the exact same. They follow the same formula. So I would say that they're like two sides of the same coin a lot of the time. Yeah.
And so with rock and roll and hip, because it's actually been a lot of cross between rock and roll and hip hop. As far as the music, I think back to Run DMC. To go further, like as far as artists in hip hop, rock and roll, or even classical and then orchestra, I know those hip hop and rock and roll are probably a lot more focused on the artist being up front. But when we get to classical music, a lot of times it's a bunch of instruments. The connection to the music, do you think it comes from a cultural aspect, or do you think it comes from seeing and wanting? Because I think a lot of times when we see musicians, see artists, we're like, oh, he looks so cool. Like, man, I want to look like him. Or do you think it's drawn because of the culture of the music that's behind it that kind of draws you more to the two of hip hop and rock and roll versus just like classical? You can say some people are like they don't know the culture of it, so they won't listen to it. So
yeah, I can see what you're getting at. So yeah, I feel like with hip hop and rock and roll, I mean it's all very popular music. You know, very accessible. You don't have to pay $100 to go see it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say the accessibility factor, and that you don't have to get like a PhD in music to understand it. You could just take it it's on the radio, or you have a streaming service. It's very, very accessible, very easy, and there's a lot of culture behind it. I mean, that's like the music of the populace of the people. Classical music, on the other hand, it's not very accessible for people to understand. There's a lot of like mathematics behind it. There's a lot of, people have to spend their whole lives perfecting the instrument just to play it, and a lot of times I feel like if you don't really get it, which even I do, I fall asleep at concerts all the time, classical music concerts. It's just how it is, it's very calming, and if you lose focus, it's just like, oh, well, it's a soundtrack, but it's not very accessible to a lot of people, unless you talk about it. Unless, like, what I find interesting is the history behind it. I like to know, okay, yeah, it's pretty, but why? Or what are they talking about? Beethoven wrote this for his neighbor he had a crush on, and it's like da 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 for Elise, it's beautiful, or so anyway, but I think that it's inaccessible. But if teachers were to explain how it could be better, it could be like way, people yes. wouldn't be so scared of it.
Okay, why do you think it's important for you to be a music teacher? No matter, or for there to be music teachers, period, in this world. Why do you think it's important for you to be in that role, or to, even if you were not actually at a school teaching music, do you think that you would still want to give music to the world? Just not as an artist, but just give music to the world. Do you think you would still do it?
Yes. I can answer this in two parts. So personally, for me, I've only known music since I was a kid, grew up with it. And so for me, in any fashion, even if I was doing something completely different, I would love to share music with the world. It's just in me. It's in my soul. I love to play. There's something about when you perform something on any instrument and someone comes up to you, which happens often, shakes your hand, is like, thank you for being here. Thank you for playing. It does really good for my soul. I've made them happy, and they can tell their friends about it and be like, hey, this is great.
It goes back to the joy.
Exactly. I am spreading joy with them. And I worked really hard. I spent a lot of money, like with this expensive instrument. And I want you to hear it. I want you to smile. Professionally, it's really easy to be competitive in this field. You take your kids to like the highest tier, highest level of contests, and you battle other orchestra programs and stuff. It's really easy in this field to make it about yourself and your pride and your status among other professionals. But for me, it's still about spreading joy with these kids. Like, that is where I get the most joy. Sometimes I get approached like, hey, you should try out for this thing. You need to like make sure you're pushing your kids. You gotta make them like do this, do that. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, I have to ask myself, like, it's not about me, it's about them. Like, would this make them unhappy? Would this kill their joy for music? Would they want to spread it after going through such a rigorous process? And a lot of time the answer is no. Maybe we don't go for it this year. Yeah.
That was kind of deep. Okay, I will go back to artists. Who is your favorite artist, period? Just, who do you think, favorite composer or whatever, creator of music?
Oh, man. It's been the same answer since I was a kid. I love Radiohead. Okay. Very just weird guys, like a bunch of geeks from England, But also, I think what I like the most is that they started as like one thing, and throughout their 30-year career, they've just changed so much, and they try to break away from whatever they did last time. I think for artists, that's really important. You don't want to do the same thing your whole life, your whole career. It's good to have a catalog of different art. Like every year, just trying to evolve,
What do you think about artists crossing over to different genres? Do you think that hip-hop, do you think a hip-hop artist should reach out to an orchestra and try to work on even classical music with someone, just in a sense to bring the two styles together?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you do, which artists would you like to see work together?
Oh, man.
What would you like to see?
So I'm going to tell you this. What I love the most about Classroom, there's a lot to love about it, but having the live band like changed my life. Like, I thought that was like the most enjoyment I've ever gotten out of a concert. Because when you hear hip hop, it's you have like electronic beats and stuff. You have the DJs doing it, but hearing it played with live instrumentalists, and not just any instrumentalists, like some of the best like drumming and guitar playing I've ever heard. It just like blew my mind. So what I would love is for more hip hop artists to incorporate that. I think I heard a Nas album the other day, and he had like an orchestra playing with him live. I think that was amazing. If I had to pick any artist, man, oh man, I've been listening to a lot of like Freddie Gibbs and stuff. I love Freddie Gibbs.
Okay.
If he were to do it with like a live band or something, I think that'd be great.
That would that would be really dope. Freddie Gibbs' voice with the live band.
I agree. Even with like a little string orchestra or something, that'd be nice too.
Yeah. Oh man, I think Rick Ross has a song like Maybach Music where he has an orchestra. Like it's like beautiful music just being played. He has like a series like Maybach Music, Ashton Martin Music. It's a few different songs that he has, but it's really dope music in it. Okay, we talked about the joy of music, and I think with music for me personally, it's an inspiration to me. It kind of lights a fire under me sometimes, and also it can be a lot of things. But so as far as music, do you have like, what's your most inspirational song, or like maybe even it's just an artist or something about, or do you even think music is inspirational to you?
I find a lot of inspiration in weird places. Anyone can tell you, though my guests will come over and I'm just blasting some random obscure thing from like Brazil or from Japan, but it's constantly changing. I spent a long time like listening to the same music over and over again because I didn't want to branch out. And once I started like I play like outside of work. I play like in bands and stuff. We find inspiration anywhere. I like a lot of like I mentioned like South American or like Brazilian beats, and then you'll put like a melody from Asia over it, and then like some like complex like African rhythm as well, and like a weird time signature. For me, I love taking music from anywhere. Growing up with not only popular music here, but classical music being Western classical music, it's only like like the Western European countries, and then going to college and learning about the Eastern European countries, or like a lot of music that was from poor people, and then just being exposed to that for the first time, and then seeing, oh wow, they didn't go to school, they didn't have a college for music, and yet they're doing crazy complex things. I took influence from that as well. So it's not necessarily like one artist or one genre. I'm trying to look at it like everywhere. Yeah.
It's just music is inspirational to you. Period.
Exactly. And it's not like I'm searching for it in a specific country. It's just like I'll hear it and I'm drawn to it because, I think a lot of cultures have their own like unique things. And if I've never heard it before, I want to like pounce on it and just say, I want to see what it's about. Yeah.
You seem like you see music from a totally different perspective than me. Like, I feel like you have a bird's eye view of music just because of your background. And so you probably hear something and you can break it down easily. And like, you're talking about the origin of the sounds that you can put together. And so it's just really interesting to me and intriguing to me, just the way that your brain is processing music. I can tell, but I think that's one of the coolest, that's what makes music so cool to me. And I got one more question for you and we're done. But I think that music is just so powerful in so many different ways for each individual. And so for me, I know I ranked certain things that we have in the world, that the world has to offer for us. So maybe just Western world has to offer for us, but like sports and music and just life, all type of things. Where do you rank music in life?
I would say at the very top. I feel like music is, it's a cliche thing, but music like transcends language, so you could just, at several times in my life, like especially in college, we had like international students and stuff, and music brought us together. Like a friend of mine that I'll meet barely speaks English, we'll just play music together sometimes, and that's happened many times in my life. And so a story is that I know that there are certain so orchestras they can travel, like they go on tour too, they do that as well. And they'll go to other countries where they have to work with other artists that they don't speak the same language. Like you'll take a German orchestra will go to India, and they don't have a language in common, but they will play together and they'll communicate that way. Or they'll be like, in their language, they'll be like, "Hey, play this," and they echo, they do it. You know what I mean? So I would put music at the very, very top.
B flat is B flat.
Exactly. In any instrument, it's the same pitch.
Man, that just blew my mind. That was deep.
Thanks.
No, man, I want to thank you for doing the interview.
Sure.
Really appreciate you. And not just doing the interview, but for what you are doing for the world. You're giving the world music. And you're, even more so, you're giving music to people who could actually take it forward, not just for someone to listen to your stuff and just say, "Hey, man, that sounds good, Gio," but you're actually out here passing music on to continue to break the barriers of language and whatever else that the world puts in front of people. So I really applaud you for what you're doing, Gio, man. And you just opened my eyes to a different level of music. And I'm about to go play some Brazilian sounds in the car.
Do it, yeah.
But thank you again, bro. The Teacher's Lounge is dope. Gio, thank you for stopping by, sitting in the Teacher's Lounge, and giving us all the game on music. You're much appreciated, bro.
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all so much for having me.
No problem, man.
Hey, pop that Classroom Concert Series tape in, man.